Gentlemen,
many of you guys had great insights under my video comments section that I hadn't thought of. It often spurs me on to think of other ideas and essays, which I wouldn't have if not for your insights, so thank you. And that's also why I like the idea of doing these mailbag videos, to highlight the astute and interesting comments that might get lost in the vertical scroll of history. And as a side note, look, I don't mind rational constructive criticism in the comments sections. Differences of opinion or points that are of a different perspective to mine, fine. Comment with each other, discuss, all good. But I'd like to keep my comments of the same temperament as my videos. That is, civil and about the ideas being discussed. Not name-calling, trolling, personal attacks, copy-pasting the same comment across multiple videos, promoting your links or latest war or crusade. Personally, I don't have the time nor interest in treating my channel as a Facebook/social media page that I happen to post videos on. No, this is the exact opposite for me, my channel. This channel is my video journal of ideas that I share with you. I don't have the time to get dragged into people's disputes, wars, scandals, etc. With the time I have, I'd rather just make content and share reciprocal ideas and conversations. And so with that, I hope this mailbag series will continue to encourage more civil and interesting comments, insights, thoughts and questions without the trolling, blackmail and vitriol. So with that, let's get into it. I think a great many of you guys have misinterpreted my last video where I was simply playing devil's advocate. I have a very Apollonian reflex to values and morals in life. I value loyalty, and that's why it rubs me the wrong way about how loyalty is prostituted just to get people vulnerable and then take advantage of those people. I don't agree with that. So yes, gentlemen, I do hold loyalty in high regard, and if one can't be loyal anymore, and they simply can't in all good conscience be loyal any longer, then be upfront about it to the person beforehand. Don't betray loyalty. Just thought I'd clear that up. Some have misinterpreted me not procreating for the notion that I would have if it wasn't so dangerous. No, I would have accidentally or naively so, and would not have suffered any consequences as dangerously as one would face today, potentially. No, the role of the father in terms of me and the lifestyle that, I could see myself in, it's akin to homosexuality to me. I have nothing against it, but it's not anything that I could see myself being. So yes, I ought to as a human animal, but no, human, me, doesn't want to, and I take full responsibility for that. Do you really believe in all this ego, consciousness, mumbo-jumbo, woo-woo bullshit? In short, no. But I do believe in good personal ethics leading to a more stable and happy life as a consequence. Conversational understanding like this between ourselves, red pill knowledge, philosophy, all that kind of beneficial introspection is what I'm interested in. People like to tear the stoic and philosophical side of human understanding down by paralleling it to this modern holistic notion of spirituality, the bumper sticker like Facebook and social media posts that you typically see middle-aged, let's be frank, women putting things on their posts like, just believe and it will happen, horse shit like that. I categorically am not aligned with that. What I am aligned with is thinking for yourself toward a better life. Whether or not you get that perfection's another thing, but I think leaning in that direction is much more rational. I'm a creative person and a writer by nature, so introspection and looking for the answers is in my DNA. So I can't help but do that, and I find it interesting. So feel free to ignore what I find interesting, gentlemen. There are a lot of other channels you can click on. Human, why do you have a girlfriend? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to wear this beanie. You don't have to do or say anything I do. Let me throw it back on you in a way that might make it easier to understand. Why would you ride a motorbike? Why would you drink? Why would you smoke? Why would you eat junk food? You know, to me, life's not about safety, gentlemen. To me, life's about adventure and creativity, and that just involves risk. And you can gauge your own risk. You know, on one end, I find value in comfort as much as the next person, but that slowly rusts and deadens me. To me, it's about recoverable risk. To me, it's about doing things with your eyes open, not avoiding every little pinprick. You know, if you want to avoid that and there's nothing in it for you, avoid it. I'm on your side. Actually, I'm on my side. I'm not on your side. I'll do whatever I want to do with my eyes open, and if I don't heed the advice I know to be true, and I don't heed reality, then it's my own fault. Yeah, do whatever you want. Why I do or have something in my life should only pose something to reflect on in terms of you. In the same way, I don't dictate to anyone what they should or shouldn't do. I think it's bad form to dictate to anybody else what they should or shouldn't do. Converse, pose a question, but I don't get all the anger. Human, you're not a real MGTOW because don't care. Dude, you need your testosterone levels checked. You're too passive. All this touchy-feely bullshit. Real alpha men know how to blah blah blah. Okay, on with some of the comments I thought were worthy of actually repeating and freezing in time in terms of this video, because I thought they had something worthwhile to say. Like this one, a comment under the end of loyalty video I did recently. Quote, I'm reminded of something that I learnt while reading Jung. It wasn't that what I was trying to achieve was bad or foolish in itself. It's that I was doing it with the wrong people, or with the wrong things, or in the wrong way. This is an excellent point for not being dogmatically stuck in a black and white position because it once saved you, you know, like taking the red pill, and then all of a sudden you bury yourself in that dogma, and anything that doesn't fit that mold you completely reject and you fight against. Sometimes it's not necessarily as black and white as this is good and this is bad. It's the way in which something was done was the reason it produced the good or bad result. And it's a good case for keeping an open mind and seeing things from different directions to actually ascertain what the more likely truth is. Or a response to my video defending peers and friends. Women don't really make lasting friends for the same reason they don't have lasting romantic relationships. They only interact with others as far as there is some benefit to them. I think this was reflecting my comment that in my experience and from people I know, and it just generally seems to be the case, that there are very, very vanishingly few women that have lifelong friends that they've kept from their youth. It's very, very common that guys keep lifelong friends. We don't actually break bonds unless there's a reason for it. You know, you can not see a friend for a while and then you pick up where you left off years and years later. Unless there's a reason, there's no reason to act differently. You know, you can make the case for growth. You grow apart, but not the way you often see women getting angry. And it's almost like they get angry as an excuse to be brave and cut ties. This was a good one in response to my video, Should a Man Reproduce? Quote, That's a woman's problem. Evolutionarily speaking, man is not a bottleneck of reproduction, so it is not our duty nor our problem. Man's problem is whether or not we should try to get laid or not. This is a very, very astute point, and it's not me wanting to cast off responsibility. So it's not me saying, men have every right to be horny and not take responsibility. I'm saying that men aren't the problem of why reproduction is making a decline, why it's going backwards. Men are horny naturally. What is it in society these days that would make a man with such a strong desire resist it? Have a think. Or this response, again from my video, Should a Man Reproduce? Quote, men can be controlled so easily. Women know it. Rare is the dog that doesn't like to be scratched behind the ear. Rare indeed. And women do know this. And I think I'm not the only one that is frustrated and often just so exasperated with the coy denial as though they don't have any power whatsoever sexually. I just wore this low-cut top and you're staring at me. They lie to themselves, they lie to others, and it's almost like a reflex where there is no ethical standard other than to get away with something. I don't know. The amount of times you hear people trying to justify their biases or a position they're trying to wedge a victory through. Women are the limiting factor in reproduction. They are the sexual bait. They have such a large reflexive and narcotic effect on a man. A man has to actually work, have skill, have game, build up his character, build up his assets, accumulate a lot internally and externally through the things he acquires to be able to present and cross his fingers that a woman says yes to him. A woman can just walk up to a man and say, let's go have sex. That's the difference. And I hate this coy and glib denial as though women really don't have much power over men. Give me a break. Comment under my video Puppets of Our DNA. Quote, I think the reason why letting go of reproductive instincts is so hard is because the ones that managed it before us didn't pass down their genes. Mind blown, right? Mind blown indeed. Most of our struggle now will likely be in vain in the grand scheme. Any cords we might have painstakingly severed in our mind will likely be buried along with us, not to be passed on to next generation, and perhaps for the better. So it will always be a struggle for anyone willing to take a dive into this pond. This is a very difficult thing to wrap your head around. It's the notion that doing what's right ethically, personally, by virtue and conviction, and that ostensibly should be right for society too, will not bear fruit. You are doing the right thing, but nature doesn't care. You're doing the right thing by the dangers in front of you, by trying to protect the sanctity of your life to be able to, if you want to reproduce, be able to for the grander scheme of things. But the grander scheme of things does not care. The ends justify its means. And the means right now is jumping into the meat grinder of gynocentrism. And it's a very difficult thing to reconcile mentally if you have any kind of intellectual curiosity and ethical standards, that these strong, good ethical standards that men are not marrying certain types of women today, not just because of their character, but further than that, the laws backing all of society up will favour and reward the worst kind of women, the women that he does not and cannot marry and have kids with. Good genes do not get passed on. As I mentioned in that video about reproduction, a man that would raise a child to a good, high ethical standard cannot do so because it would most likely require him to sacrifice himself, and as such, he won't be able to raise that child for a distally better future. The risk is too great either way. If you're not conscious or you don't really value yourself much, you don't have much self-respect, the distal long game and nature will be perfectly happy. But if you do, and your survival instinct kicks in and self-preservation kicks in, that's another story. And that's exactly what a lot of these conversations are about. Trying to navigate and make sense of these things ethically. Trying to be a good person living in a less than good world. So the mental aspect of advancing society has died. Men are effectively sperm and nothing else. If you're not sperm, shut up and play video games and let your DNA die. So in response to the PTSD surfer video I made, quote, "Excellent analogy. I like to use the analogy of, would you accept a job offer where your boss could fire you at any time for no reason, and if you were fired, you would have to pay back half of your pay, including any benefits?" And this is why I love analogies, because they cut right to the heart of the issue. It's similar to what comedians do. Illuminate a point very sharply through humor or a metaphor. And so analogies as well like this allow you to cut right to the heart of the issue, the black and white, right and wrong, good or bad of the issue. Whether it's the issue of getting married or the issue of having children, with gynocentrism and particularly women, because they're so self-referential, they can't abstractly think. So your analogies often have to be tailored. As an example, I remember Stefan Molyneux trying to explain to women who kept saying that paid maternity leave is perfectly normal and they don't understand why men have such a big problem about it. Don't they want it for the greater good of society? And he explained it in a way that women could finally, hopefully understand, which I don't think they did, where he said, imagine, ladies, let me cast the analogy as a parallel to sort of something you might understand. Imagine you met a guy and you want to both get married and he wants to commit to you in this way, in the same way you want to commit to a job. So this guy wants to commit to you in marriage, but he says, I might leave for a year or two without notice and I won't tell you when. And while I'm gone, you have to keep my position open. You can't marry anybody else and I may or may not come back. And when I do, you have to let me back and I may leave again. Ridiculously, you have to paint pictures in such a creative, specific way that is, and this is true empathy, being able to place myself in their shoes to be able to explain it to them from their perspective in their language. That's real empathy. You tell me which gender has more empathy. The one that just keeps shaming men and not listening to any of their legitimate grievances, or the ones where you have to creatively come up with some sort of metaphor to reboot their small hard drive so they can finally go, oh yeah, okay, I get what you mean. I don't like it, but I can't argue with that. It's just frustrating sometimes. Or response to my previous video, the hero, or don't be the hero. Or as Quasimodo said, don't be the hero unless you gotta. Either way, I think the message here is don't be a sacrificial hero where people use you as a doormat. Make sure it's reciprocated. The quote is, men measure love by sacrifice, whereas women measure love by what he does for me. That's a good place as any to end. Keep those insightful, civil, good comments coming. They expand the conversation in the video that was already discussed. I can only see so much from a perspective, and being so close to the topic when I'm writing or thinking about it, that often what great comments like these do in the comment section is they further the conversation, they further the video's ideas being discussed. So I encourage you guys to keep making comments, and the more you do, the more of these videos I'll enjoy making for you too. So I'll talk to you soon. Subscribe, share, like and comment, and if you appreciate these videos, please feel free to donate. It really means a lot. Links below. Thanks guys.